You're not even my real daughter." Those 7 words broke something in me that I didn't know could still break. I used to believe kindness always came back around. That helping someone, even a stranger, even when it cost me everything, would somehow be worth it in the end. I was wrong, or at least, I thought I was. 3 months ago, I was just a girl chasing a job interview. The only real chance I had to escape a house that never once felt like home. I never made it, because on that street, an old man was being humiliated over a bag of fruit. And I couldn't just walk past him. I didn't know that decision would cost me my dream job. I didn't know it would lead me into a marriage built on lies. And I certainly didn't know that the old man I stopped to help was about to change the entire course of my life. This is the story of how one small act of kindness unraveled a secret buried for 15 years. My name is Amara, and this is how I found out who I really was. Calm down. You're ready for this. I kept repeating those words to myself the entire bus ride. Because today wasn't just another day. Today was the interview, the one I had been preparing for over a month, the one that could finally pull me out of the life I was drowning in. I counted my coins twice before I left the house that morning. Just enough for the bus fare, with maybe a few naira left over for lunch if I skipped breakfast. My shoes were falling apart at the seams, but I had polished them until they almost looked new. Almost. If the bus comes on time, I'll make it. That was the only thought running through my head as I walked toward the market, cutting through the crowd to save 5 minutes. 5 minutes that felt like everything. That's when I heard it. "Get out of here. You old geezer. Stop wasting my time." A vendor was shouting at an old man. An elderly man standing there with empty hands and a face full of quiet humiliation. He looked so small against the noise around him. "Please," the old man said softly. "I lost my wallet. My grandson will bring me some money soon." "Lease, do you think I haven't seen your type?" People were watching. Nobody moved. I watched too. For a second, telling myself, this isn't my business. I have somewhere to be. I can't be late. But then the vendor said something that made my stomach turn. "No wonder your family doesn't bother taking care of you." Something in me just broke. I don't fully understand. Even now, what made me stop walking? Maybe it was the way his hands trembled. Maybe it was the way nobody else in that crowd was willing to say a single word in his defense. Or maybe some part of me recognized what it felt like to be humiliated in public, with everyone watching and no one helping. "That's enough," I said. "You shouldn't speak to an elderly man like that. Mind your own business." "Girl, it is my business." I paid for his fruit with money I had set aside for lunch that entire week. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and I gave it without thinking twice. "Thank you." "My dear," he said, "you are so kind. It's nothing." "Really?" "No," he said. "It's not nothing. People don't stop to help each other like this anymore." His name was Emeka, and something about the way he looked at me, like I actually mattered, made me forget, just for a moment, that I was still supposed to be somewhere else. I gave him the last of my money for a taxi home. I told him I'd catch the next bus. I told him I still had time. I didn't. By the time I reached the office, the receptionist just looked at me and shook her head. "I'm sorry. The interview already started. We can't let you in." I stood there in the hallway, my chest tight, my eyes burning, and I felt the full weight of what I had just given up. But here's the strange part. I didn't regret it. Not even for a second. I told myself I would find another job. I always did. What I didn't know was that the old man I stopped to help wasn't just any stranger. And the choice I made that morning the one that cost me everything I thought I wanted, was about to lead me somewhere I never could have imagined. I just didn't know it yet. I always told myself that home was supposed to be the one place where you could finally put your guard down. For me, it was the opposite. By the time I got back that evening, the sun had already gone down, and I had rehearsed what I would say at least a dozen times on the walk home. I didn't get the job. I helped someone. I'm sorry. None of it made the words feel any lighter. Where have you been? Did you bring money? That was the first thing my stepmother said to me. Not how did it go? Not are you okay? Just, did you bring money? Mom, I told you I had an interview today. I didn't get the job. So you spent the whole day doing nothing. And you didn't bring anything home. What kind of daughter are you? I stood in the doorway of the kitchen, watching her stir a pot of soup that I knew, without even asking what. I wouldn't be offered a bowl of. That had become normal in this house. I cooked. I cleaned. I paid bills when I could. And somehow, I was still the one who never did enough. I'm trying. Mom, I really am. But you don't even work. And Uche just wastes money gambling. There it was. Uche's name. Dropped into the conversation like it was supposed to make me feel guilty for existing. Watch your mouth. Amara, she started, but I was too tired to hold it in anymore. No. You watch your life. Uche, you don't work. You just sit around and gamble while mom defends you. Do you even care that we can barely afford to eat, you ungrateful girl? Do you know how much your brother is suffering? Do you know how much debt he's in? That's not my fault. I shouldn't have to fix Uche's mistakes. Well, you can, she said, and something in her voice shifted. Something calm and calculated, in a way that made my skin go cold. I've already found a way. What do you mean, Chief Bassi? I felt my whole body go still. That old man that always looks at me like I'm something he wants to own. He owns a few houses and a small supermarket. He's not extremely rich, but he has enough money to settle Uche's gambling debts. No. Yes. He's willing to pay a very generous amount to marry you. Enough to clear all of Uche's debts. You're selling me. I'm saving this family. You're not saving anyone. You're just letting Uche ruin himself while I pay the price. I don't remember deciding to raise my voice. I don't remember deciding to walk toward the door either. What I remember is the sting across my cheek before I even realized her hand had moved. Enough. You're doing this. Amara. Whether you like it or not. I didn't stay to argue. I grabbed my bag and walked straight out the front door. Into the dark. With my cheek burning and my chest even tighter than before. Behind me, I could still hear her voice trailing off into the night. But I kept walking, one foot in front of the other. Don't let them see you break. That's the rule I had lived by for years. What hurt the most wasn't the slap. It was that no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much of myself I gave to that house, it was never, ever enough for them. I had become the housekeeper, the provider, the only person still holding what was left of that family together. And in return, all I ever received were insults. Demo. And now, betrayal, wrapped in the shape of a marriage I never agreed to. I sat on a bench a few streets away, alone, staring at nothing in particular, when my phone rang. An unknown number. Amara. My dear. It's Grandpa Emeka. For the first time all day. My chest loosened. Just slightly. Grandpa, I hope you got home safe. Yes. My dear, I wanted to check on you. I hope I'm not calling too late. No. It's fine. Grandpa, come and see me. Amara, I'll send you my address. I looked back toward the direction of my mother's house. Then down at the bruise forming beneath my fingers. Right now, yes. Dear, if it is not inconvenient. I thought about Chief Bassie's face. I thought about my mother's threat still hanging in the air behind me. "I'll be there," I said. I had no idea that walking toward that address would be the last time I ever walked back into that house as the same person. The address Grandpa Emeka sent me didn't make any sense. I stared at my phone screen for almost a full minute, certain I had typed something wrong. This was one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the entire city. Gated streets, private security, houses that looked more like small palaces than homes. Grandpa Emeka had looked so simple at the market. His clothes were worn, his hands were rough. How could a man like that possibly live here? "Are you sure this is the right place?" I asked the taxi driver, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes." "Mado, this is the address you gave me. Looks like someone you know is really rich." I didn't answer. I just sat there, staring out the window, feeling smaller by the second. By the time I stepped out of the car, a guard at the gate was already greeting me by name. "Good evening, Miss Amara. Sir Emeka is waiting for you." They already knew my name. I felt completely out of place, standing there in my worn-out shoes and my one good dress, walking toward a house I didn't belong in. "Amara, my dear, you're here." Grandpa Emeka met me at the door himself, his face lighting up in a way that made the knot in my chest loosen. "Just a little, Grandpa. This is your house?" "Yes, dear. I live here with my grandson." My grandson. The words settled somewhere in the back of my mind, but I didn't think much of them yet. "Come inside," he said gently. I had never in my entire life walked into a house this grand. Marble floors, high ceilings. Everything around me looked like it belonged in a magazine. Not in the life of a girl who had just been slapped by her own mother a few hours earlier. "I don't know what to say," I admitted. "It's just a house, dear," he said, guiding me toward a quiet sitting room near the back. "What matters is the people inside." For the first time that entire day, I felt myself breathe. "How did your interview go?" he asked, settling into his chair. "I missed it." "Oh, dear. I'm so sorry." "Which company was it? A's Group?" "I guess it just wasn't meant to be. You never know, my dear. Sometimes fate works in mysterious ways." He insisted I stay the night. And honestly, I didn't have the strength left to argue. I didn't want to go back to that house. Not that night. Maybe not ever. I slept better in that guest room than I had in years. No shouting. No slammed doors. No fear of what I'd be blamed for the next morning. Just quiet. The next morning, a staff member knocked gently on my door. "Good morning, Miss Amara. Sir Emeka asked that you join him for breakfast in the dining hall." I told myself there was nothing to be nervous about. It was only breakfast. I was wrong. Walking into that dining hall, I saw him before Grandpa Emeka even said a word. A man in a dark suit, sharp and composed, sitting at the head of the table, with the kind of presence that filled the entire room without him even trying. I recognized his face instantly. I had seen it in newspapers, in business articles, in the very company website I had studied for weeks before my interview. Kelechi Adeyemi, CEO of Adeyemi Holdings, Grandpa Emeka's grandson, the man behind the very company I had missed my interview for. "Amara, come, sit," Grandpa Emeka said cheerfully, completely unaware of the storm going off inside my chest. "This is Kelechi, the grandson I told you about." "I remember," Kelechi said, his eyes studying me carefully. Not unkind, just assessing. "It's nice to finally meet you." I managed to say, "Kelek, dear, Amara needs a job," Grandpa Emeka said, far too casually for the weight of what he was asking. "Grandpa, really? You don't have to. She missed her interview at your company because she was helping me. You should give her a job." Kelechi's expression didn't change much, but something behind his eyes shifted. "What are your qualifications?" I straightened my back, forcing my voice steady. "I have a degree in business administration. I also have experience in marketing and project management." "Impressive," he said simply. "She can start tomorrow." Just like that. No interview. No waiting for weeks to hear back. No second-guessing myself in front of a panel of strangers. "Thank you," I said, still not entirely sure this was real. "I'll have HR prepare your contract," he said, standing to leave the table without another word. I sat there for a long moment after he left the room, staring down at my hands. 3 days ago, I had nothing. A house that didn't want me. A mother willing to sell me off to settle her son's debts. A missed interview that felt like the end of a dream I had worked so hard for. And now, somehow, I was about to start working at that very company, standing in the same house as the man who ran it. I had no idea. Not yet. How much that one small decision to stop and help a stranger in the market was about to change absolutely everything. The first 2 weeks at Adeyemi Holdings felt like living someone else's life. I woke up early every morning in that quiet guest room Grandpa Emeka insisted I keep using, put on the one blazer I owned, and walked into a building I used to only dream of working in. Nobody there knew that I had slept under the same roof as their CEO. Nobody knew Grandpa Emeka existed to me as anything more than a kind old man I met by chance. I liked it that way. It felt like the only part of my life that was still, somehow, mine. "This company has been struggling for 2 weeks," Kelechi said, sliding a folder across his desk toward me on my very first real assignment. "Study the report and tell me what we are missing." I stayed up half the night, reading through every page. By morning, I had an answer. "The product isn't the problem." I told him, "You're speaking to the wrong audience. This should be reaching the people who actually need it." He looked up at me for a long moment, something unreadable behind his eyes. "You found the problem on your first real week here. I only followed what the customers were already saying." He didn't say much else that day, but 3 days later, the numbers came back. Engagement up. Results better than projected. I heard him tell his assistant, almost offhandedly. Amara's changes made the difference. He rarely spoke to me unless it concerned work. He never mixed personal matters with business. And honestly, that suited me fine. I told myself that was exactly what I wanted. To be seen for what I could do, not for the mess I had walked away from. What I didn't expect was Grandpa Emeka's idea. "Amara, dear, I have an idea." "What is it?" "Grandpa, you should marry Kelechi." I nearly dropped the cup in my hand. "What, Grandpa? We barely know each other. Kelechi doesn't even—" "I'm not asking you to fall in love overnight," he said gently. "I'm asking you to help each other." I didn't understand what he meant until later that same week, when Kelechi called me into his office, his expression more serious than I had ever seen it. "I believe you and Amara should get married," Grandpa Emeka said, before Kelechi could even greet me properly. "Marry her, no way. You know I made a promise. I'm still looking for Chika." "Kelechi, be reasonable. This will help Amara, and it will help you." I stood there, frozen, feeling like a piece of furniture being discussed rather than a person in the room. Kelechi was quiet for a long moment, his jaw tight. Then, slowly, something shifted in his expression. Not warmth, exactly, but calculation. "It doesn't have to be real," he said finally, almost to himself. "The board would stop pressuring me. Investors would trust the company more. This could buy me time until I find Chika." He turned to me directly for the first time. "I have conditions. No one can know. Not at work. Not in public. Not even to my friends. Why, I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. This marriage is temporary. When I find Chica, I will annul it and marry her instead. It shouldn't have hurt. He had made it painfully clear, in that single sentence, exactly what this was and exactly what it wasn't. And yet, some small, foolish part of me still felt something crack quietly in my chest. I'll do my best, I said, because what else was there to say? The wedding, if you could even call it that, happened only days later. No guests, no celebration, just a registry office, a stack of paperwork, and two people signing their names like they were closing a business deal. Sign here. Mr. Adeyemi. I watched him sign without hesitation, his pen moving smooth and certain across the page. And I remember thinking, I knew this wasn't love. So why does watching him sign so easily still hurt your signature? Mrs. Adeyemi. My hand trembled slightly as I wrote a name that no longer fully felt like mine. Congratulations, the officiant said. Mr. and Mrs. Adeyemi. Grandpa Emeka embraced me warmly afterward, whispering how happy he was, how he knew Kelechi would take care of me. Even if he didn't realize it himself yet, I smiled and thanked him, because that's what I had always done. Smile through things that hurt. That night, Kelechi showed me to the penthouse we would now technically share. Your room is down the hall. He said simply, we'll live under the same roof. But that's all this is. Got it, I answered, keeping my voice as steady as his. I am not attracted to him. I repeated that sentence to myself like a promise, long after he had already walked away and closed his own door behind him. This wasn't home. Not really. But for the very first time in my life, I had a room that was entirely my own, with no one to answer to, no one to hit me, no one to sell me off to pay someone else's debt. For now, I told myself, that would have to be enough. I had no idea, lying there in the dark that first night, just how much that arrangement was about to test everything I thought I understood about my own heart. Living under the same roof as Kelechi taught me something I never expected. It is entirely possible to be married to someone and still feel completely invisible to them. I kept paying my own expenses, even though I technically didn't have to anymore. I took taxis instead of using the company car. I told myself, over and over, that I didn't want to owe him anything. That the moment I started depending on him, I would lose whatever was left of myself. As your best friend, I have to admit, Kelechi's friend Toby said one afternoon, leaning against the office doorway, the new marketing assistant is making everyone else look lazy. She's an employee. Toby, Kelechi replied flatly. Keep it professional. I stood just outside the door, close enough to hear it, and something about the way he said it settled strangely in my chest. Not even his best friend knew I was his wife. I told myself that didn't matter. I told myself I preferred it that way. Imani Kelechi caught himself one evening, finding me still at my desk long after everyone else had gone home. Amara, you're not leaving. I need to finish this report first. He lingered in the doorway a moment longer than necessary, like he wanted to say something else, but didn't. I noticed things about him that I probably shouldn't have. The way he rubbed his temple when a call frustrated him. The way he always left his coffee half-finished on days he had board meetings. The way, once or twice, I caught him watching me across the office before quickly looking away. I told myself I imagined it. Then came the announcement that changed everything. The Okonkwo family is hosting a charity gala tonight. Kelechi told me one evening, his voice unusually distracted. Their daughter disappeared years ago, but our families remain close. They expect me to represent us tonight. I hope the event goes well. I said carefully, keeping my voice light. I stayed home that night, finishing reports I didn't really need to finish, just to keep my hands busy. It was well past midnight when I heard the front door open, and something in the silence that followed told me things were different. The next morning, it was everywhere. Every news outlet, every headline. The long-lost daughter of the influential Okonkwo family has finally returned home. A woman named Ify, they said, raised in an orphanage. Identity confirmed through DNA testing after nearly 15 years missing. I watched Kelechi's face on the screen, the shock in his expression raw and unguarded in a way I had never seen from him before. He had spent years searching for Chika. Now, without warning, she was simply back. That means our marriage is over. I remember thinking, my stomach twisting into something cold and heavy. He started coming home later after that. Some nights, not at all. When I did see him, his mind was somewhere else entirely, already halfway gone to a life that no longer had room for me in it. You still make that serious face when you're thinking too much. Grandpa Emeka told me one evening, finding me alone on the balcony, staring out at nothing. I'm fine. Grandpa. He didn't push. He just sat beside me quietly, the way he always did, like his presence alone was meant to remind me I wasn't as alone as I felt. I watched Kelechi from a distance after that. Watched him laugh at things, if he said. Watched him bring her coffee. Watched him look at her the way I had quietly hoped. Somewhere deep down, he might one day look at me. I was a fool to think his kindness meant anything more than what it was. He was never blind to what this marriage was. I was the one who forgot. Standing near the office window one afternoon, I watched his car pull away with her inside it, and I made myself a quiet promise. Whatever this was between us, whatever I had let myself start to feel, I would not let it break me the way everything else in my life already had. I had survived worse than a broken heart. I just didn't yet know how much worse things were about to get before they got better. I should have known something was wrong the moment Uche started calling again. Amara, it's me. I need your help. What do you want? I'm in deep trouble. It was always the same script, always the same desperation in his voice. The same excuses, waiting right behind it. How much this time? I owe 2 million. These guys, they're dangerous. Amara, if I don't pay, they'll kill me. How did you even find my number? I asked. Though some part of me already suspected the answer. Mom found out you're married now, to a very rich man. You live in a mansion, and you can't even help your own brother. I'm not giving you any money, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I don't owe you or Mom anything. Then don't blame me for what happens next, he said, and the line went dead before I could ask what that meant. I told myself it was just another empty threat. I had heard enough of them over the years to stop taking them seriously. But this time, something about the silence afterward felt different. Heavier. For days. I noticed small things I couldn't quite explain. A car parked a little too long outside the office. A feeling, more than once, that someone was watching me on my walk to the parking garage. I told myself I was imagining it. That guilt and exhaustion were finally catching up to me. I was wrong. Amara, my daughter, can we talk? My mother's voice on the phone caught me off guard. Softer than I remembered it ever being. I want to apologize properly. She said, please. Come, against every instinct telling me not to. I went. I don't remember much of what happened once I stepped through that door. A strange smell in the air. A glass of something I didn't finish. And then, darkness. When I woke up, my wrists were bound, my head pounding. And the first face I saw clearly was not my mother's. It was Ify. You really are a nuisance. she said, circling me slowly, her voice sweet in a way that made my skin crawl. Oh, sweetheart, it's not about what I want. It's about what Kelechi doesn't get. Mom, I whispered. Disbelief, cutting through the fear. You're selling me out to a stranger. Stranger Ifi laughed. Oh, Amara, didn't your mother ever tell you the truth? Ifi offered me a good deal, my mother said, refusing to meet my eyes. You're not even my real daughter. The words hit harder than anything that had happened to me that entire night. What, that cannot be true. I found you 15 years ago, she said quietly. You had been in an accident. You had lost your memory. You didn't even remember your own name when you woke up. You called me Mom. My husband and I were kind-hearted, so we took you in. Dad loved me, I whispered. At least that part was real. Uche is my only child, she said. And even now, even in that moment, her voice held no apology in it. That's why you were never enough. So you never loved me. You were never mine to love. I felt something inside me go completely still, colder than the fear itself. No wonder every sacrifice I had made in that house had never once been enough. No wonder love had always felt like something I had to earn and never quite managed to. Ifi's expression sharpened, all pretense of sweetness gone now. Kelechi is mine, she said, and if I can't have him, then you certainly won't either. I opened my mouth to respond, but the sound of the door bursting open cut through everything. Get your hands off my wife. Kelechi. I had never. In all the months of our arrangement, I heard his voice sound like that. Raf. Furious, terrified all at once. I'm here, he said, kneeling beside me, his hands surprisingly gentle as he worked to free my wrists. I've got you. I'm so sorry. Amara. I searched his face for judgment, for the anger I was certain would come once he learned the truth about my mother, about the lies I never meant to tell. I found none of it, only relief, only fear that had clearly not yet finished leaving his body. Did they hurt you? He asked. No. I managed. You came just in time. Behind him, security was already dragging Ifi and my mother out of the room, their protests fading into the hallway. For the first time since I had known him, Kelechi looked at me like I was something worth protecting. Not an arrangement, not a convenience, not a temporary solution to a business problem. I didn't understand it yet. I couldn't let myself hope for what it might mean. But somewhere in that moment, kneeling on a cold floor with my wrists finally free, I realized the truth. I had been fighting so hard to deny. I had fallen completely, hopelessly in love with him, and I had absolutely no idea what to do with that. I thought that night in the mansion, the two of us kneeling together on that floor, might have changed something between Kelechi and me. I was wrong about that too. In the weeks that followed, the truth about Ifi's forged claim still hadn't come out. Publicly, she was still the returned Okonkwo daughter, still gracing headlines and charity events, still standing beside Kelechi at every family function his obligations required. Whatever had happened that night at the safe house, whatever I thought I saw in his eyes, none of it seemed to matter once the doors of that world closed around him again. I watched him grow more distant. Not less. More time at the office. More silence at dinner. I told myself it was simply because he was still processing what my mother had done. Still trying to understand a wife whose entire past had turned out to be a lie she didn't even know she was living. But mostly, I watched him fall deeper under the shadow of Chica, of the promise he had made to a girl 15 years ago, and the woman now standing in her place. I can't pretend anymore, I whispered to myself one night, staring at the ceiling of a room that still didn't feel entirely mine. This is tearing me apart. I made my decision the next morning. Grandpa, I've decided to leave. Leave, Grandpa. Emeka's face fell in a way that nearly broke my resolve. I love him. I admitted, the words feeling strange and heavy in my mouth. Spoken out loud for the very first time. But love can't be forced. I know he doesn't feel the same way. Amara, dear, don't rush this decision. Kelechi is complicated. He's blinded by his past. No, Grandpa, he's not blinded. He's just in love. And it's not with me. I packed only what was mine. Refused every offer of money Grandpa Emeka tried to press into my hands, and walked out of that penthouse with nothing but the quiet dignity of someone who had already lost everything once before and survived it. You are an incredible woman. Amara, Grandpa Emeka told me at the door, his eyes glassy. Kelechi is a fool for letting you go. I found a small apartment across the city, took a modest office job where nobody knew my name meant anything, and told myself, over and over, that starting over was possible. Erasing him from my heart was not. What I didn't know was that the moment I left, something inside Kelechi finally cracked open. He later told me that watching Ife move through his grandfather's house, spending money like it was owed to her, showing no real interest in the family or the foundation her parents had built. Something about it had never sat right with him. A quiet, persistent doubt he had been too afraid to fully chase. I need the complete original file for this DNA test, he told his head of security. Every sample record, every signature, every laboratory entry. What they found unraveled everything. A doctor bribed, a sample switched, private meetings between Ife and the man who had forged her results, occurring weeks before the announcement that had shattered an entire family's hope. She approached me before the test. The doctor finally confessed, his voice breaking under the weight of what he'd done. She paid me to replace the sample and create a positive result. I forged it. The real results, once retested, were unmistakable. Ife was not the missing Okonkwo daughter. She never had been. I heard about her exposure secondhand. Through the news. Through headlines. I forced myself not to feel anything about anymore. I told myself it didn't change anything for me. Ife's lie collapsing didn't mean Kelechi's heart would somehow find its way to mine. I was wrong about that too. It was Grandpa Emeka who called me, his voice trembling with something I hadn't heard from him before. Not sadness. Something closer to disbelief. Amara, my dear, he said, there's something you need to see. He sent me a single document, a blood donation record, dated years ago, from a hospital near the site of an accident that had made headlines the same night. The real Chika Okonkwo disappeared. The donor listed was an unidentified young girl, brought in with severe memory loss after the crash. I stared at that name for a long time before I understood what I was looking at. It was mine, not Amara. The name beneath it, the one buried under 15 years of a life I had built out of survival and quiet endurance. Chika Okonkwo. I had been the mystery girl all along. I sat there in my small, borrowed apartment, staring at a piece of paper that suddenly made sense of every gap in my memory. Every question I had never known how to ask about who I truly was. I wasn't just Amara, the girl who had nothing. I was the daughter an entire family had spent 15 years searching for, and somewhere across the city, I knew. Someone else had just discovered the exact same truth. Kelechi found me before I even had the chance to process what that document meant. He didn't call first. He didn't wait for permission. He simply showed up at my door, out of breath, like he had run the entire way there instead of taking a car. I have to find her. He told me later he had said to himself, over and over, driving through the city that night. I cannot lose her again. When I opened the door and saw his face, I knew immediately that he already understood everything I had just discovered on my own. You're Chika, he said quietly, like the words themselves still didn't feel real in his mouth. You've been Chica this entire time. I didn't get the chance to answer before his phone rang. It wasn't a happy call. If you want your wife back, the voice on the other end said, cold and amused. You'd better send 50 million to this account. And if you don't worry. When we're done with her, you won't want her back anyway. Uche. He had found out the truth before either of us fully had. I don't remember much of what happened next with any real clarity. I remember Kelechi's face going pale, then hard, then completely focused, like a man who had already decided there was nothing in the world he wouldn't do to get me back. Trace that call, he told his head of security. Mobilize everyone. Contact the police. Now. What I remember most clearly is waking up somewhere unfamiliar, disoriented. My mother's voice pulling me toward consciousness with words I never wanted to hear again. You're not even my real daughter. She said it like a weapon this time. Not a confession. Uche stood beside her, refusing to meet my eyes. Take her away. Kelechi's voice cut through the room before I even realized he had found us. You are not her mother. You lost that right the moment you sold her out. Kelek. Please, my mother started. Take her too. I don't know how long the investigation took after that. I don't remember most of the details. The paperwork. The questioning. The quiet after that followed. What I remember is Kelechi's hand never once letting go of mine through all of it. Like he was afraid that if he did, I might disappear again the same way Chica had disappeared 15 years earlier. The final DNA results came back within the week. The results confirm a biological parent and child relationship between you and Mr. and Mrs. Okonkwo, the doctor said gently. It's true. You are Chica Okonkwo. I remember staring at that piece of paper, feeling something settle inside me that I hadn't realized had been missing my entire life. I wasn't the abandoned burden my mother had once called me. I was someone's daughter. I always had been. Meeting the Okonkwo family for the first time was nothing like I expected. There were no grand speeches, no dramatic declarations, just an older woman crossing the room slowly, her hands trembling as she reached for my face like she was afraid I might vanish if she touched me too quickly. "My baby," she whispered. "I thought I lost you forever." "I'm sorry," I told her honestly. "I still don't remember any of this." "You have nothing to apologize for," she said, pulling me into an embrace that felt, somehow, like something my body remembered, even if my mind didn't. "We will not force you to remember. We will simply create new memories together." They welcomed me home that same week, in front of more people than I had ever stood before in my life. I stood at the center of a room full of strangers who were, somehow, my family, and I said the only thing that felt completely true. I may be Chica Okonkwo by birth, I told them, but I grew up as Amara. That is still the woman I know how to be. It was Kelechi who spoke last that night, standing in front of everyone, his voice steady in a way I had never once heard from him before. "I once promised myself I would marry Chica," he said, his eyes never leaving mine. "But I didn't understand back then that Chica was never just a name. I don't love you because you're Chica Okonkwo. I love you because you're Amara, the woman who stood by me when I was too blind to see her, the woman who helped my grandfather when she had absolutely nothing to gain, the woman who loved me even when I gave her every reason not to." He knelt in front of me then, in front of everyone, and asked a question he had no obligation left to ask. "Will you marry me again, Amara? This time, for real. No contract, no arrangement. Just us." I looked at Grandpa Emeka, who was already smiling like he had somehow known this exact moment would come from the very first day he sent his driver to bring me to that house. "Yes," I told Kelechi. "There was no contract between us this time, only love." I think about that day at the market often, the version of myself who almost kept walking, almost decided that helping a stranger wasn't worth being late for the most important interview of her life. I think about how close I came to missing the very thing that would end up saving me. I lost a job interview that day, but I found a grandfather who saw me before anyone else did. I found a family I never knew I had lost. And somewhere along the way, without ever meaning to, I found the man I was always meant to love. Kindness is never wasted, even when it costs you something, even when you don't understand. In that moment, exactly where it might lead you. Sometimes, the smallest decision you make on an ordinary morning is the one that quietly changes the entire course of your life. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever helped someone and had it change your life in a way you never expected? Don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this one. And I'll see you in the next chapter.